Hello, hello, hello. It's Woke Wednesday. Are you tired of our new administration and the Justice Department yet? I know I am. Hi, dear friends. How are you? Happy Woke Wednesday to all of you. Folks, you know that when it is Wednesday, I say, how are you feeling? We're checking in with our feelings. So drop an emoji that describes how you are feeling about this week, how you are feeling right now. Welcome, welcome, folks, to Woke Wednesday, American Tyranny Edition. Tell me in the comment section how you all are feeling about this week thus far. I can tell you, I'm not feeling that fucking great. But something that I have been talking about on Woke AF daily this week is the Boston Globe's bomb friggin' rundown on future-proofing the American presidency. If you have not read this 6-part series, you need to. And if you have not subscribed to Woke AF Daily at patreon.com/WokeAF, you should. $5 a month gets you 5-hour-long shows each and every week. But the piece, can you see? It's backwards. But future-proofing the American presidency starts out with a treasure map for an American tyrant. So we will be discussing that on this week's Woke Wednesday. I hope that you all are doing well. If you see, folks, this is a product of going back out into the world now that New York City has lifted its COVID restrictions because we've reached 70% vaccinated population. And now I have to put real clothes back on again and go out and leave my Brooklyn bunker and venture into the world. So that's what it looks like now. Are you guys wearing pants? Are you wearing real clothes and dresses? Do they fit? No shaming if they don't. All right, so let's get into the business of this week. And yes, the thinking faces, that is my face. The wondering what the fuck is going on with our Justice Department, that is supposed to be Merrick Garland's Justice Department, but it feels a bit like Bill Barr's Justice Department. Because, we're deciding that we're going to, instead of erring on the side of a sexual assault victim, that we're going to defend a sexual predator, which is Donald Trump. When Merrick Garland testified before the committee last week, before the House, he said that he was compelled by the law to make some of the decisions that he has made recently. And I want to talk about some of them because I believe, like the episode says, that Bill Barr's actions while he was Attorney General were very easy for him to get away with doing, right? He used the rule of law and stretched it in ways that only a criminal could do. But it seems that now that we're supposed to have had a change of the guard and we're supposed to be restoring dignity, responsibility, and accountability to the Department of Justice and agencies across the board, that we're not actually doing that. And so what are we making way for, folks? We are making way for an American tyrant. Tyranny in America. What I continue to say on Woke AF is this. We did not divert fascism. We did not stop it with the election of 2020. All we did was hit pause. And this piece in the Boston Globe, future-proofing the American presidency, literally lays out in all of the ways that we need to secure our democracy. But Merrick Garland's Department of Justice isn't currently doing that. So I'm wondering, 6 months on the job, things aren't looking that much better than they did under Trump. Now, I said this last week. I am not talking about the response to COVID. I'm not talking about the vaccine rollout. All of those things, thankfully, because we actually had adults and people who care about the safety and the health of the American people, we are in a much better place. We are in a maskless place in a lot of places, and that is great. And our economies are going to start to slowly come back. But as it pertains to the safety and the health of our democracy, this administration and this Department of Justice has done absolutely fucking nothing. So a couple of things that Merrick Garland has done over the past couple of weeks that are raising eyebrows across the law community, across the political community, and have definite implications as to whether or not we are going to fully restore our democracy by holding Donald Trump and all of the criminals that were associated with Donald Trump accountable. So here's where we are. A couple of things. Bombshell this week. Bombshell number one. The New York Times reported that guess who was using the Department of Justice to spy on their political enemies? Oh, Donald Trump. Donald Trump had the Department of Justice subpoena the metadata, right? Metadata basically telling us what phones are talking to what phones of prominent Democrats in the House that, guess what, were pertinent or centered to Donald Trump's impeachment in the House. So they had Apple subpoena the data for Adam Schiff, you know, the chief of the impeachment, Representative Eric Swalwell, other members, journalists who were doing their due diligence to investigate Donald Trump and his criminal ass Department of Justice and more. They even subpoenaed the metadata for children of their political opponents. Now, they did so in a way where it would have gone against the law for Apple to then alert those folks to the fact that their metadata was being seized and was being reviewed by the Department of Justice. But funny enough, Merrick Garland has been the head of the Department of Justice now for 3 months. Why didn't he know about the subpoena? And if he did, why didn't he take any action to alert the public? And if he didn't, what the fuck is Merrick Garland actually doing? Because one of the things that I was alerted to in the New York Times article was this. Why was the top national security person, right, a Trump appointee from 2018, Joseph Demers, why was he still in a job in the Department of Justice? Why was he still running point on the Department of Justice's operations as it pertains to the subpoenas of members of Congress? Why wasn't that man forced to resign? Why wasn't he actually now, since he has resigned, since this information has come out, he resigned as of last week, why haven't we had any committee hearings? I want to remind everybody that during the Republicans, pit bull moment around Benghazi, that they wasted millions of taxpayer dollars, right? They brought forth 1,000,001 committee hearings, pulled Hillary Clinton in front of the committee for 11 hours to testify about Benghazi, and yet in the 6 months that Democrats have been back in power, how many committee hearings have you seen where Bill Barr, Jeff Sessions, Doug McGahn, any of these people have had to be brought before the Judicial Committee, the House Oversight Committee, put their hand on the Bible and start to talk about what they were a part of? Why are these stories still being broken by journalists in several prominent outlets, but not being followed up by the Senate and the House? What the fuck is going on? And don't tell me that you're busy appointing judges, because we've only seen a handful of those. And by a handful, I mean like 3 or 4 that have been done in the past 6 months. And Democrats are sitting around acting as if they have all the time in the world. Folks, we don't have all the time in the world. As a matter of fact, time is actually running the fuck out, right? And that's what Republicans are doing, is that they are running down the clock. So while Mitch McConnell last week said, yeah, we get control of the Senate again, there is not going to be another Democratic appointment onto the Supreme Court. When you hear things like that, are we just thinking as Democrats that Mitch McConnell is kidding when he's saying the quiet part out loud? Are we not taking him at his word, which we've seen in operation over the last 10 years? I remain absolutely outdone with the fact that we couldn't get a bipartisan commission on the January 6th insurrection, and somehow we still think that we can't get to the bottom of things. We don't need a commission in order to bring forward any of the people, any of the criminal actors that were responsible for some of the most heinous things. First of all, lying to Congress is an actual crime. We know that Bill Barr lied to Congress. We know that he purposefully misled the public with regard to the contents of the Mueller report, right? Remember his 4-page summary that he stood up in front of the American people and said, oh, there was no collusion here, and this confirms it? And then later to find out that that was a complete and total lie and fabrication of what the actual contents of the Mueller report were? Why haven't we seen Bill Barr brought before the House Oversight Committee? Why haven't we seen Bill Barr testifying before the Senate Judicial Committee? I'm confused, folks, why these people that we know have committed criminal acts, that every outlet is reporting on, and yet our government is doing nothing about. Literally, they are doing not a fucking thing. So when the Boston Globe then lays out the future proofing of the presidency, the future proofing of it looks like creating the guardrails, looks like getting responsibility and accountability for the wrongs that were done, and doing so in an efficient and public manner, because guess what? Midterm elections are in 2022. Folks, midterm elections are in 2022. Do you know when 2022 is? It's in 6 fucking months. We're halfway through 2021. So in 6 months, those 2022 midterm election campaigns are going to be ratcheting up. So if we lose power in the House and in the Senate, what the fuck do you think that the rest of the Biden administration is going to look like? What do you think that they're actually going to get done? So why do you think that Republicans are wasting Democrats' time by saying they're going to come to the table on infrastructure? Oh, we're going to come to the table on the bipartisan commission so that they can run out the fucking clock. I'm not an athlete and I know what the fuck they're doing. They're running the clock out, right? The ball is literally in our court and we keep throwing it over to them and they're like, well, it's just 6 more months of this fucking slow rolling. Then they win back power and then guess what? Everything grinds to a halt. And whose fault is that going to be? It's not going to be Republicans' fault, right? Because right now they are fundraising off of the major grift by telling their constituents, hey, we ain't going to let shit through. We ain't negotiating on shit. And so if they are telling their people that as a way to get them revved up, as a way to get more money, right? Then why are we sitting around continuing to wait to try and negotiate with a group of domestic terrorists? Why is Merrick Garland sitting before the Judiciary Committee telling us that he is compelled by the rule of law to uphold Jeff Sessions and Bill Barr's fuckery that we know was fuckery because he wants to preserve the institution of the Department of Justice? Let me tell you what other laws, right, people felt compelled to uphold. Plessy versus Ferguson, Dred Scott, slavery, the Holocaust. Those were all laws. Laws are not about right and wrong. They're about power. And whoever the bad people are that are in power are the ones that get to dictate what they deem to be legal or not. We need Merrick Garland to have an actual imagination and reimagine what our democracy looks like in the current context, not what you hoped it would be led by a group of people with morals and values. That's not who the fuck the Republican Party is. So if you know that to be true, and you know that the laws are only as powerful as the people that are enforcing them, and are only as trustworthy as the people that are enforcing them, and the people are showing you who the fuck they are, then who is the idiot here? Right? You know who the idiot is going to start to feel like? It's going to start to feel like the American people. Because they're going to start to ask themselves, why the fuck am I voting in the first goddamn place? Because it doesn't seem that when I give Democrats power that they tell me that I need to give them. They tell me that I need to stand out in line for 6 hours. They tell me that I need to run registration drives. They tell me that I need, that even though there are all of these voter suppression laws, that I still need to show up. And I do, and I show up in mass, but then you guys don't do dick. What do you think people are going to do? They're going to stay home because your inaction is proving them right. That there makes no difference in their day-to-day lives who's in power and who is not. Right? So we have a Department of Justice that had continued bar policies of investigating the political opponents of Donald Trump. We have a Department of Justice that has decided to continue to defend LGBTQ discrimination in schools because, you know, religious freedom, even though they know that it's discriminatory. They just upheld that last week during fucking Pride Month. So everyone wants to cheers and applaud our Vice President Kamala Harris and her husband for marching in the DC Pride Parade. And my question to them is that I don't need you to fucking march. I need you to roll back and rescind fucking discriminatory policies that are wrapped up in religiosity and telling me that it is their freedom to bully. It is their freedom to discriminate against LGBTQ students. I don't need you fucking marching. Speaking of hypocrisy, let's talk about this other thing, which is this. So the Senate yesterday decided that they were going to pass a proclamation or the assertion of making Juneteenth a national holiday. Now, Juneteenth, folks, is coming up this Saturday, which is the recognition, right, which should be America's actual Independence Day, because it was when the last enslaved Africans in Texas were alerted to their freedom, right, 2 years after the Emancipation Proclamation. So Juneteenth, right, is the actual holiday for independence for this country when it's not a farce, right? The 4th of July, you're talking about freedom and liberty against tyranny, but you had millions of people enslaved, right? So that's on that bullshit. So what the Senate decided to do is say, oh, well, we're going to make Juneteenth a holiday, like an actual holiday that's going to be widely recognized. And at the same time, create legislation to defund public schools that want to teach critical race theory? So at the same time that you want to celebrate liberation, you actually are working to not teach about how we got to Juneteenth in the first place. So how is it that we are talking about liberation, right, from white supremacy and the atrocities thereof, and how it affects where we are now currently in our society with racial wealth gaps, with health gaps, right, with housing gaps, with all of these things? You want to celebrate the holiday, but you want to discredit what got us to that point in the first place. So essentially, folks, what is happening right now is the ultimate motherfucking gaslight that we have ever seen, right? In our modern times of gaslighting. It's like, hey, Negroes, here's another holiday for you to celebrate, but don't ask us to really unpack our injustice. Don't ask us to really unpack white supremacy, right? Because we don't want to do that. But here, let's give them a holiday. Let's march in their little parades. Let's go ahead to Tulsa and say 100 years later, all of the fucked up shit that we did to destroy people's lives and livelihoods. Let's call it a massacre. Let's get applause and cheers for it. And then let's continue on doing the same fuckery we've been doing for 100 fucking years. Miss me with your holiday, okay? Miss me with it. Because it means absolutely dick. At the end of the day, I don't need a holiday to celebrate what my ancestors fought for, right? I really don't. What I need is for white America to wake up to the fuckery that they have played a part in for centuries, right? I need white people, white kids to understand and question the policies that exist on the books that are based in discrimination and racial prejudice, and ask themselves, why? Why am I better, considered better? Why am I given more loans, more opportunities, college admissions, all of these things just because the color of my skin? Why do we have a government that dictated whether or not people were worthy based on their skin color? These are the critical questions that we want folks to be analyzing. Why? Because history unlearned is history that will be repeated. But you see, here's the thing, folks. This is what I've begun to understand, is that Republicanism, this desire to erase, to whitewash the realities of this country, the darkest parts of this country, is based in fear, right? Because here's the thing. If we were to have critical conversations about this country's founding and who is responsible for the capitalistic structure that we all have had to buy into, that who is responsible for America being one of the wealthiest nations, then we would have to ask questions about how that was done for free. And then we would turn around and say, well, if we now recognize these things to be true over here, then we are going to be forced to change. But you see, white supremacists don't want change, right? Because change would involve accountability, and change would involve them losing power, right? There is power in the erasure, because you get to continue to go along gaslighting black people into believing that racism doesn't exist. You're just fucking lazy. Meanwhile, you wouldn't have had a fucking economy had it not been for enslaved black people. You wouldn't have food. You wouldn't have culture. You actually wouldn't have anything. Because what we are learning, right, through critical analysis is just how much enslaved Africans did for this nation, what the indigenous population did, and how they have received absolutely not a goddamn thing. And so once you learn the truth, you can't unlearn it. You can't turn away from it. So that's why Republicans right now are like, don't look, cover your eyes, cover your ears. This doesn't exist. It's the same way that they don't deal with climate change. Because if we have to admit that science is right, then that would require action, which means for them, their belief is that a loss in money. Because if the oil industry is what fuels my ability to run for Senate, to run for president, to run for office, and then I'm saying, wait a minute, we have to do something about that industry, then guess what? My funds dry up. Right? So if you deny facts, if you deny information, if you deny the truth, then you can continue existing how you are and you're never forced to change. You're never forced to fucking evolve. There are fears in the evolution. Because then what does that mean? That means that the pyramid of power and hierarchy that they've created will have to be flattened. And they don't want that. So don't give me a fucking holiday. I don't want a day off. I want reparations for my people who were robbed. That's what the fuck I want. Right? I want people to understand the truth so that we don't continue to repeat it. Right? Texas is the place where all of America's textbooks come from. And at this point in time, slavery looks like an unpaid internship. Right? Oh, the white master was so benevolent and these people didn't know anything anyway. Meanwhile, the craftsmanship that folks had, right? The creativity, the innovation is what fueled the birth of this fucking nation. Folks, this past weekend, my sister, Nicole, and I, we went through the series High on the Hog, which is playing on Netflix right now. And initially, I didn't love it, right? I didn't love the first episode, but I decided to keep going. Let me tell you something about Black people. Black people are extraordinary. They continue to use the word contributions in the show, though, like the contributions that Black people made. And I said, no, Black people did not contribute. They just made, right? So in one episode, they are talking essentially about the farming of rice in the Carolinas, which was essentially, what is it, Gold Carolina rice, I think that they refer to it, or something like that. You folks know, down there. Before enslaved Africans were brought to Charleston, right, were brought to the port in South Carolina, white Americans had no idea how to farm rice, which became the foundation not only for the economy of the South, but basically globally. Had it not been for the skill set of those West Africans who had been farming, right, rice in their own country, that would have never been the basis of an economy in the United States, right? I learned that this weekend. I learned about people who have never been mentioned in our history, that are essentially foundational, not just for our food, not just for our culture, but for our economy. So literally, yes, as Jam Down just said, there would have been no Carolinas without enslaved African people. It is why they fought the Civil War so hard to keep their quote unquote property. Because do you know what happened to the economy of the South after the Civil War? They lost 80% of the production of rice. 80% of the production was gone. Because they were now going to have to actually pay people for their fucking labor. Everything that we have been taught has been a lie to fuel the bullshit of white American exceptionalism. They're not exceptional, right? And the question that James Baldwin so poignantly asked throughout his life and his work is, what was it about the fragility of whiteness that had them produce the lies that led to legislative policy, right? About our ineptitude. Because without the craftsmanship, the innovation, and the wherewithal of enslaved Africans, this country would be no fucking place. It would be a developing nation, right? And so when you have these people talking about, oh, we're not going to teach the facts and the truth because they want to continue to tell us, right, that it was, like Rick Santorum said, oh, there was nothing here before my people came on the Mayflower. There was just nothing going on. What the fuck are you talking about? Right? Oh, it was white people and their innovation and their industry that built everything in this country. What are you talking about? We were an agriculturally led economy. Who was doing your labor? Who taught you all of those things that you did not know? So the whole pushback, folks, to critical race theory is just the denial of truth. Because once you know the truth, then you actually have to do something about it. And what these white men are saying is that we like things just the way they fucking are. We don't want any questions. We don't want any change, because if that happens, then we lose power. And so it doesn't matter, folks, whether they are in bed with Russia in order to hold on to their power. It doesn't matter if they're in bed with a fucking tyrant and a criminal in order to hold on to their power. They're going to do everything within and outside of their means to do so. And do you know who's going to bear the brunt of that? Us. So if you think that this past election saved us, it fucking didn't. And all we are seeing is the pushback to logic and then this coddling of law and institution as if somehow that is going to save us. All we are doing, folks, is alerting the next Donald Trump to the fact that bamboozling the American people is going to be easier than the first time around. All we are doing is ensuring, without accountability and responsibility and truth, that the next person need not even be that savvy in order to get done to finish what Donald Trump started. Because apparently this current administration has no desire whatsoever to fix it. At least 6 months in, folks, I'm sitting around with my hand on my chin wondering, I wonder if they think that we have all the time in the world, right? I wonder if they think that, Republicans will come to their senses. This country is lost and it is careening towards a cliff. And I don't know what it's going to take for action to be made, but I know I can say this. You may think that I am Chicken Little screaming that the sky is falling, but if you are not paying attention, if you don't have anxiety right now, then you are not paying attention. Because everything that this Justice Department is signaling is that they're good with what Trump did. They're fine with it. The Senate, they're good. We don't need a commission to investigate anything that happened. We'll just make sure that the next insurrection, works. Folks, I encourage you to read the Boston Globe's series on future-proofing the presidency so that you can get to a state of alarm and rage that I am in currently, because we're not in a good place. We are not in a good place. And as a matter of fact, I believe that things are going to get bloodier in this country before they get better, and that we are actually headed towards really dark times. And the funny thing is that the people that we put in power seem to think better of their opponents than the rest of us do. They seem to think that they actually believe in American democracy, even though they are telling us that they do not. So, what is my warning to you all? Double down on your self-care. Root yourself over the next 6 months, because folks, there is a storm a-coming, and only the strong are going to survive. And that is for damn the fucking truth. That is it for me today, folks, on Woke Wednesday. As always, if you want more of Woke AF, then do subscribe to patreon.com/wokeaf. $5 a month. That's like a cup of coffee, folks. Can support an independent Black queer platform that is unapologetic in the truth that we're telling. I'm not mincing words. I really am not, because folks need to wake the fuck up. And this country, now that masks are off and summertime is here, folks are getting ready to turn off the TV and tune into other shit. And I'm saying do those things. It's important, right? Self-care is important, but pay attention. Keep your eyes wide the fuck open. All right, folks, power to the people and to all the people power. Get woke and stay woke as fuck. I will see you next Wednesday or sooner at patreon.com/wokeaf. Bye.